What happened to Renita on the night of Thursday, May 21st, 2015 is a reminder to all of us that you can be surrounded by a group of people and still be completely alone. This is the tragic story of Renita Thomas. Georgetown, Guyana provides the gorgeous backdrop to this devastating story. For those of you who don't know, it's made up of people of various backgrounds such as African, East Indian, Portuguese, Chinese, and mixed race, with a population of well over 100,000. Best friends, 18-year-old Angie Williams and 20-year-old Renita Thomas, had known each other since the age of 6. According to a mutual friend, they bear such a resemblance to one another. People assumed that they were twins, but although they may have looked just alike, their personalities differed greatly. You see, while Renita, the aspiring model and mother to a 1-year-old daughter, was described as friendly and grew up in a stable, loving environment, Angie was known among their circle as the wild one, from the disadvantaged background. As a little girl, Angie watched her mother face domestic violence on a regular basis at the hands of her father, and as if things couldn't get any worse, she wound up losing both of her parents to illnesses. During her youth, she experienced even more adversity when her brother died in a motorcycle accident. Having gone through so much trauma at such a young age, Williams resorted to self-medicating with weed, as well as engaging in self-harm in order to cope with the pain. Fortunately, Renita's mother, Amanda Prince, welcomed the emotionally disturbed girl into her home and raised her as if she was her own daughter. I imagine that's part of the reason the young women developed a seemingly unbreakable bond. It appears that they were more than close. They were practically intertwined. If you look at some of their images, the girls can be seen in coordinated outfits, matching hairstyles, and sporting identical facial expressions. It's like they'd morphed into one person. But regardless of their deep affection for one another, they had their fair share of fights and disagreements, which shouldn't come as a surprise. It's perfectly normal for emerging adults to engage in conflict. The issue was Angie's inability to manage her temper. She had a nasty habit of threatening to take Renita's life. Sometimes she would say it jokingly, and although the saying is a figure of speech in most countries, those closest to Renita didn't see it that way. They were of the belief that there was truth in every joke, and that Renita should distance herself from Angie while she still had the chance. On the night of Thursday, May 21st, 2015, Renita and Angie were accompanied by 10 other female friends poolside at the Archery Resort at Versailles, West Bank Jumeirah. It's an affordable escape for visitors who are sick of the hustle and bustle of the city. The accommodations are modest, but it is said that the personnel is pleasant. Staff at the resort recalls seeing the group drinking poolside. It was around 10 o'clock when things took a turn for the worse. Believe it or not, Renita and Angie actually got into a fight over, of all things, a seating arrangement, as they were about to make their way back home in a taxi to the apartment they shared in South Roomvelt. Things escalated really quickly, and before anyone knew it, Williams used the broken bottle to stab her friend, a woman she would later refer to as her sister, a total of 22 times in the throat, stomach, and head. To make matters even worse, not one of Renita's so-called friends even attempted to intervene. They all just sat back and watched as she was essentially butchered to death. Once Williams came to terms with the gravity of the situation, the high school dropout began to slice her wrist. Afterwards, she was treated at the West Jumeirah Regional Hospital and later apprehended by police, while Renita was pronounced dead on arrival. When Thomas's loved ones heard about what occurred, they suspected that there was more to the story. I'm not a mother, so I don't know what it's like to lose a child. But if I were Mrs. Prince, I would have second thoughts about extending myself to another human being ever again. Here's a woman who provided Williams with all the things that she had longed for since the death of her parents and her brother. And this is what Mrs. Prince got in return. It's unbelievable. You'll find that this case is very reminiscent of Shanquella Robinson's murder. She was the Charlotte native who was assaulted on a vacay in Mexico by an alleged friend while others watched. She succumbed to her injuries, but no arrests have been made. Much like Shanquella's murder, this story is also composed of way more questions than answers, so get ready for what happens next. Renita laid in the hospital wearing nothing but a brown-colored swimsuit, and Mrs. Prince immediately smelled a rat, because Thomas was not the type to leave a resort in nothing but swimwear. What she found most concerning was the fact that there wasn't a single trace of blood on her daughter's body, not one drop. And that's really strange for someone who had just been stabbed 22 times. The only thing that contained blood was a towel belonging to Renita that appeared to have been unsuccessfully washed out. Now let's keep it real. You don't have to be a forensic pathologist or a medical examiner to know that someone clearly tampered with crucial evidence here. Another glaring red flag that came to Mrs. Prince's attention was the police's general disinterest in questioning the other 10 females who witnessed the crime. Now, while this isn't exactly a whodunit by any means, Williams maintained that she is in fact guilty. You would think that law enforcement would want to make sure that everyone chronicled the same story. Leave no stone unturned, so to speak. And I guess it just wasn't important enough for them. On Monday, May 30th, 2015, Renita's memorial service was held at Sandy's funeral home, and not one of those 10 friends that were there at the time of her murder paid their respects. This all but confirmed to Renita's family that her murder was without a doubt premeditated and more than one person was involved, and I second that notion. It's the most logical conclusion. The behavior of these alleged friends just screams guilty. The next question on everyone's mind was, what was the real motive for Renita's murder? Before Angie made good on what we all now know were not empty threats, tension had been rising between the young women for a while. Mutual friends claimed that they had been clashing more frequently on the subject of bills. It's no secret that money, or lack thereof, can create a serious divide in a relationship. Maybe Renita was more of a spender, while Angie was more of a saver, who knows? In addition to their financial issues, Renita had invited another female friend to live with them. So it may be that this new person who entered the equation made things even more complicated, as communication could be more difficult in a trio. Was the relationship Renita had with this other woman making Angie feel threatened or excluded? Is that what sent Angie over the edge? What was it? Tiffany, a friend of Renita's, provided the presumed motive based on what she had been told regarding that night to Starbrook News, a popular Guyanese publication. Angie had lashed out at Renita because she had learned, by accident, that her bestie was expecting another child. Now, under normal circumstances, a close friend bringing another life into the world should be cause for celebration, but if you hadn't already noticed, the girls had more of an unconventional relationship. Sometime during their friendship, they had made a pact that they would both conceive at the same time and raise their children together. Renita was already ahead of the game when she had her first child, but Angie, for whatever reason, was unable to make her dream of becoming a mom a reality. Friends of the pair say that initially Williams was furious about Renita's first pregnancy, but she eventually got over it. And this begs the question, why did Renita withhold that information from her best friend? Did she fear that something like this would happen? It just makes you wonder. Fast forward to April 26th, 2017. 2 years have passed. Williams is now 20 years old. During her arraignment on April 5th, 2017, she pled not guilty to the indictment of murder. Instead, she pled guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter. Her lawyer, Mark Waldron, stands before Judge Navindra Singh and tries to sway the court to show Angie some grace because she comes from a dysfunctional background and what she needs is counseling and love. He also states that his client was just a child when she made a life-changing mistake and that Williams is deserving of a second chance. Waldron also declares that Williams had been a model inmate, therefore Judge Singh should consider a non-custodial sentence. Angie is stoic throughout her lawyer's presentation until he mentions her less than ideal childhood. When it's her turn to address the court, her eyes fill with tears. Angie begs Judge Singh for mercy. She says, "Your Honor, I wish to express my sincere regret for what I've done. I know that sorry can't bring her back, but sometimes I wish it could. I would like to go home so that I can attend a university and study psychology." Then she apologizes to Thomas's family for what she had done, as well as her own relatives for the shame that she had caused. Prosecutor Tuana Hardy reminds the court that Williams not only took the life of a woman she was supposed to love, but that of Renita's unborn child. With that said, she urges the judge to dole out a sentence that's comparable to the crime. Judge Singh is sympathetic and says that what happened was truly unfortunate, but this offense carries a term of imprisonment. He sentences William to 8 years in prison. Singh also strongly recommends that she abstain from alcohol for the rest of her natural-born life, since it contributed to Renita's murder. He also suggests that Angie take advantage of some of the programs offered while in prison. Now, if you thought that that was the end of the story, you thought wrong. On Friday, November 2nd, 2018, Angie was one of 16 inmates who were released on parole. She had only served 3 of the 8 years of her original sentence. In my opinion, Renita was done wrong. Police did a horrible job by not further investigating her murder. Her friends are poor excuses for human beings, and Angie basically got away with murder. She's been out of prison for 6 years now, and all anyone can do at this moment is cross their fingers and pray that she's changed, that Renita's murder served as a catalyst to really turn her life around. Final thoughts. Angie and Renita's friendship was toxic, plain and simple. For one, they behave more like clones as opposed to individuals, and that can be stifling. A healthy relationship should consist of clearly defined boundaries, personal growth, and mutual respect. And no one, absolutely no one, should be subjected to abuse or even the threat of abuse, whether the relationship is platonic or romantic in nature. Renita's family saw the signs and warned her, but she didn't take heed, and it cost her a life. All I can say is leave at the first sign of trouble. I don't care what the other person has been through or how long you've known them. Just leave. That's all for now. Take care and trust no one.